Well, all right. Welcome back to As It Should Be. Paul Bertolino here in the world-famous As It Should Be studios. And, well, today I'm doing a discography versus discography video. Yeah, it's been a while since I've done one of those. I've only done, maybe 3 or 4 of them. And, yeah, I decided it was time to do another one. I usually tend to prefer to do them when I'm in the world-famous As It Should Be archives because a lot more of my records are there. And I can usually pull out all of the vinyl that I'm talking about and show every single record. This one, I'm not going to do that. I have all the Airplane albums here. I only have a couple of Doors, so I'm just, we'll put a couple back there for display, and then I'll do some pop-ups, okay? But I do have all those records. I have all of them, just they're not here. I know, and everybody who watches my videos all the time, like, yeah, we know. Well, there are new people watching, and it's very important that they know this. Anyway, so discography versus discography, for the uninitiated, is where I put the discographies of 2 different artists against one another. First album of one versus first album of the other. Boom, which do I prefer? And it's not a big analytical thing where I go deep into the, well, this is why this one's better, and then blah, 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 blah. It's kind of a visceral thing. Like, which one do I like more? At this moment in time, and then second album versus second album and on down. I tried to do bands that have the same number of albums, or as close as I can get. Now, today I have Jefferson Airplane versus the Doors because, well, for a number of reasons. One, they're 2 60s bands that I really, really love who have pretty much the same number of albums, give or take. Jefferson Airplane has 8 albums if you include their 89 reunion album, and the Doors have 9 if you include everything up to American Prayer. Basically anything after L.A. Woman is sort of optional. A lot of people will be like, there is no Doors without Jim Morrison. Yeah, whatever. But this is just a fun game, so it does not matter. Okay? So I'm going to do the first 8 Doors albums versus all 8 of the Airplane albums, okay? So let's get started. All right, so first up we have the debut album of Jefferson Airplane, which is Jefferson Airplane Takes Off from 1966, and that goes up against the first Doors album from 1967, self-titled, the classic first Doors album. Man, I love both those albums. I love them both so much. But that's pretty easy. I take the first Doors album. I think a lot of people would. But yeah, the first Doors album. But I don't want to understate how great of an album Takes Off is. I think it's spottier, and that's the thing. The first Doors album, there's only one track I don't like on that album, which is Whiskey Bar. Jefferson Airplane Takes Off, there's the cover of Let's Get Together I don't like much, and there's I forget what the name of the song that Sidney Anderson sings. I don't like that one that much. There's at least like 3 or 4 tracks on that album that I'm like, not that hot on. But man, there are songs on that record that I love. It's No Secret, Come Up the Years, Blues from an Airplane, and oh man, all kinds of stuff that I absolutely love on that album. Don't slip away. Don't let me slip away. Oh, now that you're here. Yeah, really love that. But the Doors album, Break On Through, Soul Kitchen, Crystal Ship, Light My Fire, End of the Night, obviously The End, Take It As It Comes. Yeah, I go with the first Doors album. Doors album gets the first point. Okay, so next up, the second album of Jefferson Airplane, which is Surrealistic Pillow, which is 1967, and that goes up against the second album of the Doors, Strange Days, from 1967. Yeah, ooh. Now, that's also pretty easy. That's also pretty easy for me. Now, Surrealistic Pillow is, of course, as classic of an album for Jefferson Airplane as the Doors' first album is for the Doors. And that's really the album where they took off, as it were. That's their breakthrough album. That has Somebody to Love. That has White Rabbit, which are the 2 songs. If anybody knows any songs from Jefferson Airplane, those are the 2 songs they know. But she has Funny Cars, Today, Plastic Fantastic Lover, just any number of great songs from that album. And Strange Days, has what is arguably my favorite arguably my favorite Doors song, which is the title track, Strange Days. Whoo, boy, do I love that one. And of course, People Are Strange, and, Moonlight Drive, and Love Me Two Times, Unhappy Girl. So many great songs on that, When the Music's Over. But you know what? I'm going with Jefferson Airplane. Yeah, I'm going with Surrealistic Pillow. I prefer Surrealistic Pillow. Strange Days is a really great Doors album, but it's not one of my very favorites. Kind of like the first Airplane album, I find the second Doors album a little spottier. Yeah, there are tracks on it that I just don't love as much. And, yeah, Surrealistic Pillow. Okay. So next up we have, for Jefferson Airplane, After Bathing at Baxter's from 1967. And that goes up against the third album from the Doors, which is Waiting for the Sun from 1968. Woo-hoo-hoo. Woo-hoo-hoo. Okay, now we're getting to some treacherous territory. Oh, I really love both those albums. In fact, I don't want to give up anything. I have a Jefferson Airplane ranking video and a Doors ranking video of their albums that I've already made. So go deeper into the channel to see those. So I want to give up where I put them on that, but Baxter's is one I really love. And Waiting for the Sun, though, oh man. There was a time, I think, when Waiting for the Sun was my very favorite Doors album. It's been knocked down by a different one. But yeah, there was a time when that was my favorite one. But I have to go Baxter's. I have to go with Airplane on that. Jefferson Airplane, After Bathing at Baxter's, is a psychedelic masterpiece. Now, it has a huge chunk on side 2, that track Spare Change, which is just like a jam track. That is, and I've talked about this before on other videos, that I consider practically a waste of vinyl. But the rest of that album is so great that it completely makes up for that. Totally makes up for it. I mean, oh my God. I mean, Young Girl Sunday Blues, Rejoice, Watch Her Ride, Wild Time, Won't You Try Saturday Afternoon, oh, Two Heads. Yeah, I absolutely go with that. And Waiting for the Sun, boy. Hello, I Love You, and Love Street, Not to Touch the Earth, Wintertime Love, Unknown Soldier, Spanish Caravan, 5 to 1. Yeah. Those two are just like this, but I have to go with Airplane. All right. So, number 4. Coming up, the 4th album of Jefferson Airplane, Crown of Creation from 1968. And that goes up against the 4th album from the Doors from 1969, which is The Soft Parade. Now, both of those albums are significant steps down from the previous album, and a lot of people really don't like The Soft Parade. I love The Soft Parade. I understand why people don't like it, and there are certain tracks on it that are pretty weak. Like Do It is weak, Easy Ride's pretty weak. People, I think, tend to think that, say, Tell All the People is kind of this weird, kind of schmaltzy, cheesy track with all the horns. But I love that record. I mean, Wild Child? Come on, man. Wild Child. Touch Me, the title track, Wishful Sinful, Shaman's Blues. Are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, that's a great album. I mean, yeah, like I said, it has a couple weak tracks, but it has way more tracks that I absolutely love than it does tracks that I don't love, okay? So there's that. Crown of Creation, the first 3 tracks on that record are amongst my favorite Airplane songs of all time. Lather, In Time, and Triad. Oh man, that's just like But it kind of takes a dive after that. There are tracks after that I love. I mean, I don't dislike the rest of that album, but only the 3 opening tracks are tracks that I just absolutely love. I'm gonna go with the Doors. Yeah, because the thing is that the songs that I love on Crown of Creation, I almost love more than just about anything on the Doors album. But there's just so much more that I love on the Doors album. So I'm giving to the Doors. Okay. Next up, for Jefferson Airplane's Volunteers, that's from 1969, and that goes up against the next Doors album from 1970, which is Morrison Hotel. And that one is really easy. That one is really easy for me. Now, I think a lot of people love Morrison Hotel. I think that's definitely a favorite amongst the fans, and just about anybody would consider that a step up or two from Soft Parade. I don't love Morrison Hotel. Great album. I don't love it. I don't know what it is about the record. There's just something that I can't quite articulate about it. It doesn't resonate with me quite like the first four do. And quite like the next one does. Yeah, that's arguably my least favorite of the Morrison, the original six-pack of Morrison albums. Doesn't mean it isn't a great album. Roadhouse Blues, Waiting for the Sun. Oh man, what a song that is. You know, obviously Peace Frog, but that song got kind of bludgeoned by classic rock radio. Still a great track. But I'm going with Airplane. Yeah. Volunteers, I think, is an absolutely stunningly great Airplane album. We Can Be Together, Good Shepherd, The Farm, what's the name of the last song on side one? I know it. It's just that I'm brain farting, you know, and you're probably going to go down to the comments and let me know. But I'm going to put it right here. Yeah, that. You know, Eskimo Blue Day. Oh yeah, Wooden Ships. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I think that Airplane album, Volunteers, is absolutely amazing. And yeah, it wins. Okay, all right. So coming up next for Jefferson Airplane is Bark. The first album after Marty Balin leaves, and that's from 1971. And definitely their weakest album to date. And that goes up against number 6 for The Doors, which is L.A. Woman, the final album with Morrison from 71. And that's no contest. No contest. Yeah, The Doors. Yeah, L.A. Woman completely annihilates Bark. You know, Bark... the Airplane just completely lost their spark after Marty left. There are some great tracks on Bark, but overall they sound kind of like they're phoning it in at that point. Whereas The Doors sound kind of revitalized. I mean, The Changeling and Love Her Madly and Riders on the Storm and the title track. Oh my God. Hyacinth House. I mean, yeah, L.A. Woman is absolutely one of the best Doors albums. And yeah. No problem. The Doors take that. And we have a tie so far. It keeps going back, we keep going back and forth between ties and, so we'll see how this goes. All right, so coming up next for Jefferson Airplane is the last album of their original run from 1972, Long John Silver, and that goes up against the first post-Morrison album from 1971, The Doors' Other Voices. And... This is now we're getting into the era where, Doors fans are like, this is not the Doors. Because, whatever. Calm down. Yeah. Now, there are songs in this record that I think would have been great had Morrison sang them. Now, I don't remember if this was a thing back when I did my Doors album ranking. I don't think it was. Now, anybody who hasn't heard it, there's this whole AI thing where people are, doing AI of AIing the Beatles. Let's do the, John Lennon's Woman as a Beatles track and put Paul McCartney in there, blah, blah, blah. Well, okay, somebody took a couple of tracks from this, most notably in The Eye of the Sun, which is the opening track, and put a really amazingly convincing Morrison AI vocal on it. Man, I think it's incredible. And I think it really shows how good this stuff could have been had Morrison sung on the album, had he been on the album. Because the only really thing I think that's the main weakness of the album is just that it has weak vocalists. And obviously the lyrics would have been better if Morrison had written them. But musically, it's pretty solidly just like the next Doors album after L.A. Woman. And in The Eye of the Sun with Morrison on vocals, or AI vocals, man, I think it's really great. Ships with Sails, I think it's a great track. Even with Ray on vocals, I think Ships with Sails is really good. But yeah, And that goes against Long John Silver. That's really tough. Because Long John Silver, I was commenting how Bark is kind of a phoned-in album. Long John Silver is phoned in. I mean, that album is just super weak, super just listless. They sound utterly disinterested in being there. Honestly, I'm giving that to the Doors. Yeah, I'm actually giving that to the Doors. Now, the thing is that I don't think there's anything on the Airplane album that is outright bad. And there is stuff on the Doors album, like I'm Horny, I'm Stoned, which is just absolutely just embarrassingly cringy. But there are tracks on the Doors album that I think are better than anything on the Airplane album. So you know what? I'm giving that to the Doors. Who would think that the Doors' other voices would win against, I don't know, almost anything? Well, you just saw it. Now, but tell me what you think down in the comments, because I'm sure there are a lot of people who are like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, well, I'm talking about my opinion. That's what I'm talking about. All right, so then last and least, we have Jefferson Airplane's reunion album from 1989, the self-titled record, versus the final Doors album, depending on how you look at it. I mean, some people say LA Woman's the final album. Some would say Full Circle is the final album. Others might say that American Prayer is the final album. Whatever. Well, the last Doors as a trio album before they broke up, and that's Full Circle from 1972. Now, Full Circle is... I see, the thing about Other Voices, I feel like it still sounds like Morrison-era Doors, just without his vocals, because a lot of that stuff they wrote and were preparing while he was still alive. A lot of that stuff was originally conceived and worked up, in the studio while he was alive, with them expecting him to come in and put his part on it, right? And his lyrics or whatever, right? And this album, Full Circle, is totally, completely, 100% post-Morrison. This music was conceived after Morrison's, written and conceived completely after Morrison's death. So this is them just like moving on. And there are a lot of sounds and vibes on this that have nothing to do with anything that you've ever heard from the Doors before. There's that really awful Mosquito single song. That's terrible. That's I'm Horny, I'm Stoned level awful. But there's some good stuff on this. There are tracks on this that I do like. Again, vocals are always an issue. Now, the Jefferson Airplane album is just this terrible 1989 album of these 60s. They were a classic 60s band that came back in a time that was just not kind to them. What they come back going, what are we going to do? What do we do in 1989? Do we put a bunch of synths on it? Do we put, drum machines on it? What do we do? The thing is, they should have come back and just done a Jefferson Airplane album. A timeless, not worrying about the modern sort of sound and vibes and trends album, but they didn't do that. They came back and they just did this attempt to have a modern hit album kind of production. It's distinctly 89. It's just, but almost kind of, but like an adult contemporary 89. It's just so cheesy, and it's just, there are tracks on it that I feel like I could listen to it and go and then listen to Anita Baker after that album, and it wouldn't be too jarring. You know what I mean? Just this terrible, like Marty Ballin's Summer of Love song was just like, ugh, so terrible. And Grace is even really terrible on an album. Her song Panda, ugh. The only track I really liked on that album at all was the opening track Planes, which is a Paul Kantner track. But even that one doesn't stand the test of time. When I go back to it now, it's like, it's not really that great either. It's not as bad as a lot of the other tracks, but ooh. So this is really tough because I really don't like either of these albums, but but I'm going to go with the Doors, though, because I don't know why, because I just really can't stand that Airplane album. The Doors album is crappy. God, I don't even know how to even explain. Both those albums suck. But I think I'll go for the Doors album because at least it doesn't have that awful adult contemporary late 80s sound. It's terrible in its own way, but at least it's kind of has that 1972 sound and vibe, and there are a couple of tracks on it that I kind of like, and there are definitely several tracks that I think would have been great if they just had Jim there, whereas these Jefferson Airplane tracks, I don't care what you did with them. They were just milquetoast crap that I find embarrassing as an Airplane fan. And so the Doors get that. So what that means is the Doors win. The Doors got 5 and Jefferson Airplane got 3. Now, which band do I like more? Which band do I love more? That's kind of tough. That's kind of, because I really love both bands. I almost want to say the Doors, but then it's kind of a tie. It's kind of a tie with these two bands, so I'm not even going to get into which band I like more. But putting their albums up against each other in chronological order the way I did, the Doors, came away the winners. But anyway, there you go. So that is my fun, stupid little party game of discography versus discography. Or if you're a touring band, discography versus discography, or track versus track. Could be a fun little touring game. Sitting in the van. You're in the van for 15 hours and you're on your way to Salt Lake City for the next gig. Do a little bit of track versus track or discography versus discography. It's just dumb fun, right? All right, well, everybody, thank you for watching my videos. And thank you for watching this video. If you made it this far, then you rule. And thank you for subscribing if you have. But if you haven't, maybe consider subscribing. If you do, click the little bell for notifications. But come back this Thursday because Crystal Durant and Tommy Von Boyd are going to be back here in the world-famous As It Should Be Studios. We're going to continue our Live Albums of the Year series. But this week, we're going to be doing Live Albums of 1971. So you don't want to miss that. Hopefully, I'll see you then. Well, all right. Welcome back to As It Should Be. Paul Bertolino here in the world-famous As It Should Be Studios. Today I'm doing another discography. No. I do not like that one. That one is not up to my usual standards. It is not to my liking. I'm doing that again. All right. Well, all right. Welcome back to As It Should Be. Paul Bertolino here in the world-famous As It Should Be Studios. And, it's been a while since I've done a discography. Let's try that again. Yes. Once I start to make a video, suddenly I can't speak. Okay. Hair out of my fucking face there. All right. Well, all right.